it almost killed me. We were emptying out all of our accounts. I had absolutely no money left in my account when this was over. Brian didn't have a penny left in his account. We drained everything to stay alive. Your profit is in your expense. We were making really good money. We moved to the office in front of SLU in Baguio, and we started in the basement, and we moved up to the penthouse. We worked our way up, right? And when we were in the basement area, that's when we were doing 50 sites a week. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, oh my God, let me go ahead and outsource this stuff to India. Oh shit, the India stuff sucks. We gotta go ahead and get in-house staff, and I need more space. We went up into the penthouse, and I started hiring like crazy. We went from I think 18 people to over 50. We had like 60 people at the time. We went nuts on the hiring. Okay. That was my mistake. You could sell anything. And that's why I said, copywriting, good phone sales skills, right. You'll get around in times of an apocalypse. You'll be able to survive, at least if you have those skills. If you have any good phone skills, great copywriting skills, it doesn't matter. But if you're starting a business, you still need that too. You need great copywriting. You need to be able to sell yourself. You got to be able to sell your service.
Hey everybody, this is Chad and welcome to WealthX Movement Philippines. Today we are graced with a very special person, a very interesting and unique specimen. This guy is on a whole nother level. Built a web development company at the age of 22, 23. That's super young, and this guy has influenced me in sales and marketing. Has been a long time mentor. I was an employee during the genesis of the first company that he started, and that's how my sales career take off with this leadership and mentorship. Has built 3 companies, a couple of companies in the 3 companies. It started with Custom A Design, and then from there built 2 other companies, which are called Linkage Web Development Solutions and Murphy Consulting. Got 3 offices, 1 office in Baguio City, 1 office in Angeles City, and 1 international office, which is located in the United States. I could go on and on and on, but guys, help me welcome Pat Murphy, the other side of the brain, as Brian Murphy said it.
Hey,
how you doing, Pat?
Guys? I'm doing wonderful. And it's a joy to be here today and to share kind of my story and to be with you and to see you growing is amazing, Chad. So thanks for inviting me on your show today.
Well, the pleasure is mine, man. Again, I know you're such a busy person. I'll just say that one more time. You currently have 2 companies, which is Linkage Web Solutions and Murphy Consulting. Other than that, did I miss anything?
No, that's it. I mean, we're basically, these are all business verticals. I mean, it's the same people doing the actual work, but different companies, legal entities were set up to be able to work in the environments that we work in, such as the US. Our brand is Murphy Consulting, and we have a specific niche, a specific audience that we work with in the United States. It's different than the audience that we work with in the Philippines, where in the Philippines, we're Linkage Web Solutions, and the type of clientele is completely different, but the work is all the same. It's very, very similar type of work. Like I said, it's the same exact team. We just branded ourselves differently to be able to handle our marketing effectively, basically. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. From my last conversation with Brian, he mentioned that one of your biggest clients here in the Philippines, uh, apart from servicing huge hotels, is New Clark Global City, which is like
Yeah.
really, I think it's gonna be uh, the New York, not really New York, more like the Los Angeles of the Philippines, central business district, right, of the
Yeah.
nation, dude.
Yeah.
So
And
go ahead.
no, I was going to say that's, I mean, that's one of the clients we work with. Most of the clients that we work with are small businesses. But every once in a while, we'll get people that have a big established business like Clark Global City or like Angela City Electric here locally. And of course, we're going to be doing those type of websites. It's just, you never know what you're going to get. If you put yourself out there,
Right.
and that's the one thing, putting yourself out there, like, most people don't put themselves out there, and that's why they don't get any business. If you put yourself out there, uh, it's like fishing in the ocean. You don't know if you're going to catch a tuna or a barracuda or a freaking shark. So that's what it is. And we've had the pleasure of working with big companies,
Mhm.
and we've had the pleasure of working with a lot of smaller companies, and we treat everybody basically the same. We give the same level of support, same level of respect, no matter how big or small you are. For us, it's doing what we think is the best approach, marketing wise, design wise, branding wise, for that company.
That's one of the things that I love about your culture. I was about to say custom made design, but I remember that was like freaking 9, 10 years ago. So
Yeah.
that's what I love about the culture that you establish in your company. From a client service perspective, it's super client centric, client oriented. That you don't discriminate whether this guy has like big bucks and this guy is just the little guy. You put in 110% of your effort, whether they're paying you like a couple of thousands of dollars versus 10,000, $20,000. So you mentioned something really really interesting, and I truly believe that. I'm not sure if every if the viewers got it, but to those who missed it, let me ask. You mentioned that you got to put yourself out there. What exactly does that mean, and how do you put yourself out there, Pat? For freelancers and for business owners as well. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like, you have to, when you have a business, it's you have to become your own preacher. Like, like these church gatherings, right? Where there's that minister up on board and he's always preaching the word of God or whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of the same thing. You become the biggest preacher in your community. In my community, for my employees, they see that, and it's, for them, it's, oh, this person's a leader, right? You have to lead by example. Now, for customers, getting yourself out there is a little bit different. We do a couple things. For instance, we started doing a lot of YouTube.
Hmm.
I did put up a channel, a Wistia channel, up on murphyconsulting.us, and we started doing content. I started giving a lot of free materials away. Like, for instance, for Murphy Consulting, we work with other web development agencies. We basically became the fulfillment center of many different agencies in the US. So they outsource the work to us. But aside from just the fulfillment, aside from that, we've set them up with a free downloadable agency funnel. So if they're just starting out, they can have a website within 5 minutes. They download it inside of their ClickFunnels account. Boom, it's
Hmm.
there. Now they have an agency funnel. We give them a white labeled portfolio. So if they don't have any clients, now they have a portfolio to showcase. We give them case studies from our own results, but it's white labeled, and we give it to them so
Right.
they can say, hey, customers, here's what I've been able to do. So I think it's putting yourself out there means helping people in different ways, not just the end result. My end result is to obviously get more people using my fulfillment service, but I do that by giving people a bunch of free value.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving them value through, like I said, the agency funnel, case studies, YouTube, Wistia, and showing people how, things that I know. For instance, I just did a video the other day about how to put together a Google forecast. So if somebody is trying to, if an agency is trying to sell a customer on Google Ads, one of the common questions that a customer might ask is, well, what am I going to, if I give you $1,000 a month to manage my Google Ads account, what results can I expect? Right. So, I've been able to, I put together a video showing customers how to put together a professional forecast
Mm-hmm.
to be able to give their customers as kind of a way to find a solution for that type of rebuttal. So putting yourself out there, in my opinion, is creating solutions for customers, that haven't thought of it yet, basically. And yeah, I mean, it's worked out really well.
I agree. Like, there's this book from Gary Vaynerchuk called Jab, 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 Left Hook. And basically the principle or the concept of what he's teaching in the book is you wanna be a person or a company of value by putting valuable content out there that your audience will be able to consume and leave them off better than you found them. And that, yeah, and one of the true beauty of doing that is it sets you up as an authority figure that and be perceived as actually an entity, a person, a company who knows exactly what they're doing, and that builds trust and goodwill within your marketplace. um, and by the time that you say, hey, you know what, we can take this to the next level, the close wouldn't be really, and it's not even about the close. So it's just really getting their attention, being an authority figure, and being a company, a person of value. Pat, so let me ask you, and thanks for sharing that, by the way. Let's like wind the clock back when you were in high school. If I was a really, really good friend of yours, we hang out. Who was Patrick back when you were like 12, 13, 14 years old? What is your personality type? What do you do on a daily basis? Can you walk us through that?
Oh, that might be too far back, man. But Patrick of 12 to 14, I guess like any normal young teenager, I didn't care really about, at that point, I had no aspirations at all about making money.
Hmm.
I was just having fun and living my life. And I have to thank my parents for that, because I didn't grow up rich, but I didn't grow up poor, and I grew up in a middle class type of
Hmm.
family situation. So my parents did provide for me, and I never had the sense that money was tight at that young age, about 12 to 14. But I was 16 years old when I first started to think about money and how I need money. And it was more of like, when you're young, you need money to buy like the clothes you want, or the
Hmm.
freaking your brand new video game, or to buy your girlfriend something or something like that. So at 16, that's when I kind of started thinking about, how do I get my hands on money. It was when I was 17 when I actually first started uh, working. And my first job that I had was, I was a bookie. I was a bookie. So that's what I was doing. And it's not technically a legal job in the U.S., but I grew up in Costa Rica,
Right.
and you have a lot of these. All of our clients were Americans,
Yeah.
uh, and they would call offshore to Costa Rica, and there was a big uh, kind of a boiler room operation, and I would take sport bets all day long over the phone, and clock them in the little system, and that's it. And I did that for about a year and a half, maybe 2 years.
Right.
Yeah.
That's interesting. To those who watch the episode of Brian's podcast with me, he mentioned something really interesting, and I bet some of the guys who watched that were hoping to get uh, not a different but a supplementary answer, because Brian mentioned that one of your first sales experiences was selling Viagra. Can you talk about that experience a little bit?
Oh, I didn't watch Brian's
But
episode
yeah,
yet, but
but
I'll
dude,
have to
he
catch that.
already spilled the beans.
So I did, yeah. So after the whole bookie my whole bookie experience for about a year and a half to 2 years, I think it was about a year and a half, honestly. And then I I, I basically quit that job because it was getting kind of dangerous.
Mm,
Dangerous because I was living in Costa Rica and I'm not a Costa Rican and I wasn't a permanent resident, so I wasn't able to really work legally. So
yeah,
all of us foreigners, there's a whole bunch of foreigners in this call center, people from America,
yeah.
European, all non-Costa Ricans. We were all like working under the government's eye, like trying to make money as bookies. um, that got shut down. They were raided
Oh
multiple
shit.
times, and it was pretty scary. I mean, I would get phone calls from the secretary like, "Patrick, don't come into work today. they're raiding the office." I'm like, "Okay, I'll stay at home." So it got kind of dangerous. So I stopped doing that sort of job because I was at the I was going to university as well at the
Uh-huh.
time. I was about 18. I started university, and I needed a way to supplement my lifestyle, right? Because I was getting at the time and a little allowance from my parents, and I just didn't want my parents to freaking pay for my way, dude. I was like 18 years old. I was like, screw that. I want to make my own money. I've been making my own money for about a year
Mhm.
as a bookie, and I want to make more money. So how and I was thinking to myself, how could I do that? How can I make more money when the max that people would pay you in Costa Rica for that was like $4 or $5 an hour, right? And that's at 18, that's still okay in a place like Costa Rica.
Yeah.
But how do I make more money? How do I get my hands on, several $1,000s every couple of weeks? Like, how do I do that? So I I saw this ad in the newspaper about online phone sales for an online pharmacy called Panafarm.
Yeah.
And I called the number and I spoke to this gentleman by the name of Tom Odell. And I ended up going to San Jose, which is the capital of Costa Rica. It was only about 30 minutes away from my house. Took a trip to meet Tom. Tom was in his I'm going to say about 70s, maybe early 70s. Uh, American, really thin guy, great attitude, very positive, always smiling, always laughing. He was a jokester the minute I met him, and it it was when I went to his office I found out what they were doing, right? Because
Mm.
it was like online phone sales for pharmacy. Like, what is this all about? So I met him. He said it was all, and it said like earn big commissions. So I went there, and he said we're selling Viagra and we're selling Cialis, and that's what we're doing. We're selling it over the phone in this little office, and I'm like, oh, okay, all right. And he was giving us, I believe it was I'm going to say a 20% commission. I think it was 20 or 25%. It was good. It was
That's
good
good
stuff.
commission. Yeah.
It was really good commission. And there was only maybe six of us working there. And I was obviously the youngest person. Everybody else there was like in their 60s. Um, Old American guy selling Viagra over the phone, right? And I met this guy. He looked like Crocodile Dundee. His name was Steve. He had a big mustache and
Yeah.
he'd walk around with this big machete looking knife in his holster, and really rugged looking guy. And he's the one that actually helped me. Is like, hey Pat, I got this magic list that you can start calling, and these are all customers that have ordered for me in the past, and you just have to ask them for refills. So and not a lot of people would do that, right? You
Mm,
go to a company and right, and I kind of befriended this guy, Steve, and he was helping me out in the beginning. And that's where I got my confidence, like, okay, I could really do this, because
right.
the first day at work, I was sitting down and everybody was just hammering the phones, boom, 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 selling off of a list. Okay. No Excel sheet, people. This was like printed printed lead sheets. Like,
Right.
what do you call that movie? Glenn Ross,
Gary Gary Glenn Ross or something.
yeah, you know what
Yeah.
I'm talking
Yeah.
about. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
like the lead sheets,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
Sure.
I had a highlighter and a pen, and I would go through each sheet, and I would call people up and sell them generic Viagra and generic
Right. Right.
Cialis, and I absolutely killed it. After maybe 2, 3 weeks, dude, killing it, just killing it. I was making $2,000 a week, every 2 weeks, two
Every
thousand
2 weeks.
US dollars every 2 weeks. I was working 4 hours a day, so it wasn't full time because I was going to university
Yeah.
full time
Dude,
and made good
that's
money.
that's super. I mean, that alone, you sharing your experience is pretty loaded, and there are a lot that I think people could learn from, especially the ones who want to start their career in sales, or just want to achieve some level of financial freedom. Because first of all, you're 18 years old and uh, working 4 hours every day, racking in $1,000 every week, because you said a couple of thousands every
Yeah,
2 weeks, right? And
in
$1,000
commissions.
in
I never got a salary.
salary, right?
I was offered a salary. I was offered a salary. Tom told me, he brought me into his office. He says, Pat, I'll pay you $100 every week if you take the salary, or I'll pay you a straight 25 commission. You make the decision. I said commission.
Right. That's and the that's a very, like, most people will probably say, oh, I'm gonna take the fucking $100 all day, which is, it's really counterintuitive, but it's not if you're a true salesperson. A true salesperson will always go like, oh, it's a no-brainer. It's not even a question. I'm gonna take the commission all day. But let me just close the thought really quickly and put a little bit of emphasis on what you share. You're 18 years old, making 50,000 pesos every week. All right, because we got. I'm thinking most of our audience would be a mix, but predominantly probably Filipino. So that's 50,000 a week. Oh, 50,000 is a 50. Yeah,
That's about
50,000 a week.
50,000 a week. Yeah.
We're putting in 4 hours. So what I wanna let's pick that apart a bit. Like, most 18 years old, not even 18, but I see a lot of Filipinos. I'm Filipino too, but what frustrates me is I see a lot of people, grown men, fucking 25 years old, 30 years old, 35 years old, 40 years old even, or at least close to people. I know people still living with their parents, and all they do is they play. I mean, there's nothing wrong playing with computer games. Like, there's online games, the cell phone games. So consumed with that, or something else. But here's a guy who's not from 18 years old, super young. I know you said you started at 16, 17, but let's
Mhm.
say 18 years old. What's the shift of mindset? What was your thought process? Did you have influences? What made you like, okay?
I I'm like, it was my own internal. I don't know what it really like. The thing is like, the one thing that always was in my mind was like, I hated my parents giving me money. I
Huh.
didn't want to take their money. It's a weird thing. Like, it was just that feeling that I had. Like, I grew up, and like I said, if I would go out or I wanted to bring my girlfriend out, uh, I needed cash. I'd be like, hey dad, can you get me some cash? And he would always help me out. And, here's a little cash. Go ahead and have fun. And that's it. Just keep the change or whatever. And I just hated doing it. I didn't like asking them for money. And I said, I'm going to go out and make my own money. So it was me. It was just my own attitude at the time. Like, and maybe it was just, I was a little bit big headed, maybe like, I don't need your help. I can take care of myself. I'm freaking 18. I got a lot of things in my mind. I have a lot of aspirations. I wanted at the time too, I wanted to save up for a brand new car. And it was and I was very materialistic. That was a problem. I like buying shit, and I'm like, the only way I can buy the shit that I need, uh it'd take me a lifetime to get this out of allowances. I'd have to work on my own, make my own money,
Right.
and make it happen. And I knew that I couldn't make it happen on an hourly wage. I just knew that it wasn't possible. But how do you get more money? And I knew I needed to take a commission only type of
Right.
situation, a job, and just forcefully be really good at it. And I wasn't really good at it in the beginning, but like I said, it only took me really like 2 or 3 weeks to be comfortable,
Uh-huh.
right? It's just like any type of phone job. It's
Yeah.
going to be very weird and very awkward in the first couple of days, maybe the first week or two. But after that, after you do it so many times, it becomes it's like your brain goes into a trance. Like when I cold call many times, I, my brain goes blank. I look at like a black wall, and I'm just I'm just playing the numbers game. I'm just playing the numbers game. And when somebody bites and I know they're biting, that's when I focus. That's like Patrick freaking focus. So that was it, man.
Sure. I think this thing that you mentioned, that you get into a trance, a lot of people call it getting in the zone. A lot of athletes get in the zone where almost time does just fades away, and you get into your own focus bubble and forget what's going on. There's this book called Flow, uh,
Okay.
and the author is Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. I'll probably link the title of the book, and the author is very interesting, and it makes sense in many ways, because I think that getting in that flow, getting in that zone, right, allows you to be like really operate at your highest potential. Going back, the reason why I wanted to hammer, um, the your experience working at 18, being independent, is again the whole one of the objective, the mission objective of this initiative, WealthX movement, is to empower the viewers who want to take that next level. And I think one of the ways to do that is really understand the psychology of successful people like
Yep.
yourself, who are at a young age took that leap, and became independent. Because again, like, there's nothing wrong playing games, but I see grown men so consumed playing these online games on their cell phone, or doing something else, maybe like drinking just every day. And hopefully when they watch this video, they kind of get an idea of what to do. And I think you mentioned that you said materialistic. I really, I think the better word for that is, I think you also mentioned you had
Ambitious.
aspirations,
Yeah, I
right?
was ambitious.
You're
I was,
ambitious.
yeah, definitely ambitious. And I mean, it's just that was the scenario. And you're right. I was independent. I didn't have back then. Remember, I'm 32 now. That was many years ago. That was before all these apps and smartphones. I
Yeah.
remember at the time I actually had this I had one of the first colored Sony phones, and I was like the shit at school. I really you're like, oh Pat, look at that! Look, you got that new phone. There's a camera on there. It was like the camera was like 1 megapixel. Um, so it was a different time. It was a different time. It was like the time was, you weren't stuck really on your phone because there was, it was just for phone calls.
Yeah.
Uh, Most people at my age they were out partying, having fun, which I did a lot of that too. But during the daytime, I was like working, dude. I'm working. I want to work. I want to make my money. And I did that for quite a long time, from like 18, 19, almost, I was there for like 3 years selling Viagra and Cialis for two different people. I worked with Tom for about 2 years, and then after that, I worked for Nelson, who was also selling Viagra and
Right.
Cialis, and I joined him later on. Um, but yeah, it was great money. Had a lot of fun, and what I gained from that experience was to not fear the phones. That was it for me. That's the moment where I was no longer afraid of getting on the phone. And for about and after I did the whole Viagra Cialis
Yeah.
selling, and this was just before I moved to the Philippines, I joined another person, another boiler room, and we were selling membership access to some program,
Hmm.
and and I did that for like 3 months. Um, it just wasn't really my thing. I performed well, but I just wasn't making the type of leads that I wanted to make. And you need leads to be able to close, and I just
Right.
wasn't making, because I think the problem was the infrastructure just wasn't there,
Yeah.
and it was a brand new thing for me. So even though sales wasn't a brand new thing, I had a couple years of experience with sales, and this was another sales job. We were just selling a different product. So anytime you're selling a different product, you got to get used to what you're selling. You got to get the benefits of what you're selling, and put it all in your brain. And I didn't do too well at it, but that was my second phone sales job before moving to the Philippines.
Let's let
Yeah,
Sorry. Let's talk about that for a second. But let me just preface that because I met you when I was probably 21, 22 years old during the genesis of custom A design.
yeah,
Back then, when me and Giselle got on board, the sales team was pretty much you, Brian, Jason, Dylan slash Miguel, and then there was our project manager Ryan. But before that, let me ask this. I always believe that everybody should learn sales. Like to me, sales cures all. And sales is not just what most people think it is, which is very superficial and like um to me, sell you can sell from a non-traditional sense and from a traditional sense. And me and Brian talked about this a little bit, which is like from it's not just a transaction type of thing where, okay, I got a product or service, here's my product, you give me money. It's not that type of exchange. Sales can also be like influencing your child, your kid, with the value of hard work, you know education. And so I think sales must be taught in school. And I think if they implement that, I mean, the Philippines would be a much more successful country from a like individual
yeah.
standpoint. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, I agree 100%. I couldn't agree with you more, because here's the thing. If without sales, you don't have a business. It just doesn't happen. Like the only way you can run a business is if you have sales coming in. It's literally the most important part of any business.
Right.
We can have your back end support could be literally shit, but as long as sales are coming in, you're still going to be alive. Obviously, to run a good business, you want to make sure there's a balance there. There's always going to be ups and downs,
Yeah.
but you want to make sure that there's a balance. But what I'm saying, the point is, if you have a kick-ass sales team, it doesn't matter how many problems you have in the background. It doesn't matter at all. The sales coming in
Yeah.
fixes all problems. It's like the
Sure.
universal healer. I don't know how to explain it, but that is true. When we first started, and this was I was 23 when I first started my own business, um, because I came to the Philippines when I was 21. I worked for another web company. That's where I learned how to sell websites, what websites were all about, and I learned a lot of the technical side of websites. When I started my business when I was 23, that's when we started getting involved. And I think shortly after I hired you, maybe a year or two after I started, and other people, and we formed a really solid sales team. But at the time, oh yeah, you were there in the beginning. At the time, we were doing, at our peak, I think we were closing 50, we were doing about 50 new websites
Hmm.
every single week. It
Right.
was nuts. We had 50 websites every single week. And on the back end, I was like, oh my God, how do I get this developed? Like, holy crap. I had to get all the work at the time because I didn't have a big development force. I had a few guys, and we were selling so much that I was like, oh boy, now we're going to have a problem because if I don't get this shit produced, chargebacks out the ass in the next 30 days. So I outsourced everything to India
Yeah.
through Upwork, agency that I found at Upwork. And obviously the work came back. The work came back, and I wasn't happy with the work. There was a bunch of bugs and issues, and that's when I was forced to hire in-house to help fix those type of issues. But
Hmm.
even though we had those issues, it wasn't that big of a problem, at least for me. I mean, I was like, oh, I'm working to make it better. But at my other side of my brain was like, don't worry, Pat, we're doing 50 sites a week. We're killing it. There's money. Even if 10% of these people fall off, I got another 50 sites coming in next week and the week after and the week after, and we're charging them monthly. So there's not going to be an issue. So sales cures all.
Right, but I think you made the right decision though, because if you entertain that whisper, or probably that yell saying, "Hey, don't worry about it," it's probably just 10%. It's gonna be a 10%, attrition or drop off rate or cancellation from client because
Yeah.
we didn't deliver the right. Had you listened to that voice, I think you wouldn't be as successful as you are right now, because at the end of the day, and I'm glad you made great quality products, because that's one of the things that I was super proud of when I jump on board custom A design. And I think that speaks a lot about, again, the long-term sustainability of your company right now, sales, and
Well,
actually putting great quality product out there.
because I have a conscience. I have a conscience, and I have an obligation. And like when you're running a business, you have an obligation to your customers. And there's one thing that's faster than sales, and those are reviews. The one thing that could kill you are terrible, terrible reviews. So we had, and I knew it. I just knew it. And again, it wasn't from experience because it was the first time running my own business, but I knew that I had to keep up with the production, and I had to keep my commitment to the clients that we're gonna blow them away with the type of work we do, and we will work extra hard over hours, over normal hours to make sure that that end product is something that they wanted, something that were
Right.
satisfied. And and the reason why I started my own company, and I told you before, when I was 21, I moved to the Philippines. I started working for a different company. I knew we ran into an issue. Our issue was our sales team sold so much that our development team could not keep up. So
Hmm.
I saw this collapse. I saw this collapse happen at a different company, and it was happening in my company now, a couple years in the future.
Hmm.
So I was like, no, I'm not going to let this happen. I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this right. So my first step was, number one, outsource the work, pray that it's going to come back. And of course, it never did. It came back all crappy. That's when we made the investment to start hiring people in-house and to do the work the right way and debug. And we we uh, we mitigated the issues. It's like with this coronavirus issue, you're trying to find that line, so it, like, you don't go like this, you go like this, and it balances. And that's what we were able to do. We hired a lot of people in a very short amount of time in-house to be able to keep up with that work, and we were able to balance our that line basically.
Let's slow down a bit and pick that apart, because one of the things that I truly believe in is that when you, especially when you're starting a company, when you start up, is when you build a company that's gonna outlast, the competitors in the market. You gotta found a company with with team members, teammates, like an all-star team that can imagine and see a similar vision. And then on top of that, you got to really make sure that these are great quality people who are, who love what they're doing, not just skillful with what they're doing, but they're really, really good and they love what they're doing. And of
Yeah.
course, as someone who just started my own business very recently, actually just 2019, I'm actually learning. I've heard it before, but I'm actually learning it through experience. And boy, it's so hard to find really great people. A lot of mediocres out there, and
Yeah.
it's almost super super tempting to say, okay, I can settle for this guy because first of all, I don't have the cash to invest on, because great people aren't cheap. They
Yeah.
know they're performers and they know their value, and therefore they're not cheap. So how did you, what's the process, like how did you work to bring in great people? Ryan, I know, like, started the company with you,
Yeah.
and is still with you up until like freaking
I brought him along from the previous company. We were just he was my secretary at the old web company I worked with before I started my own business. And I told Ryan the day I left, I'm keep your phone open. You're going to be working with me in the next 6 months. And in the next 6 months, sure enough, I called him and I said, come on over. I'm ready. I got enough money to be able to pay you more than what you're earning at that other company.
mm,
And we can make this work. I need your help. The reason I chose him, he wasn't the most talented person for phone skills, not the most talented project manager, but I felt that he was loyal and I felt that he was very honest and
mhm,
he was a hard worker, right? So for me, I do hire based on skill. I do look at skill, but what I look at more is attitude. Do I like this person's attitude?
mm,
Do I think his sincere? Do I think he would be potentially a good team player? Uh, Even though he's not the most talented person in the world, if he has a good work ethic and he has a great attitude, then we can make him a superstar,
sure.
right? That person can be made. I've had tons of people. Now, fast forward, 10 years, and here we are, 2020, and I have tons of people that I'm hiring. Uh, to this day, and I have HR people that bring applicants in, but I have the final say. Brian and I have the final say.
Right.
We are always at the final interview. I don't let my people uh, make the decisions on hiring. We make the decisions still to this day on who we hire in our organization. And the very first thing I look at is, do I like this guy's attitude? Do I think he's sincere? And do I think he's a hard worker? And I know it's hard to figure that out in an interview, but we do spend some time in the interview talking to that person, and you can tell. I mean, I don't know what it is, but you can tell that this person is at least, somewhat honest. And he seems like a hard worker. We're going to go ahead and try you out. And I never hire anybody straight away. What I do is I give them a training agreement for the first
Mhm.
20 days, right? So I can now see, now I'm proving my theory. My theory is that this person has a great attitude and that he's going to be a hard worker and that I can teach him to be a superstar. And with my 20-day training, now I know for sure I'm proving my thesis basically, my
I
theory.
totally agree. And I've seen it in most, if not all, successful company that outlasted their competitors, which is basically the principle or the concept of hire based on attitude, because skill can always be trained. If you got a person who's got great attitude, uh, if you were to choose between a person who's really a master of what he or she is doing but got a sucky attitude versus someone who's got great attitude but a beginner when it comes to the skill, most successful people say, will say, skill can always be trained and duplicated. I'm gonna get this guy because, or gal, because he or she's got great attitude. And I think that's a great move for many many reasons, because now if you did the opposite, which is bring the asshole in your company, that guy Brian called it, like, don't hire the coronas, because then this person will spread his or her negativity, within the organization.
We've had it happen several times, and we've learned from it from experience. I mean, I remember one time, and it does spread like a virus. I had almost half of my company resign
What the
because
fuck?
of an infectious seed that was in there. And
Wow.
and when that happens, there's only one thing you can do: purge. You
So
start purging.
you
Oh
cleaned
yeah,
house.
we cleaned house, cleaned everybody that was around that bad seed, the bad influences. Because even if the guy that started it leaves, there's other guys infected in the company, and they're going to continue spreading that virus. So you purge.
Can we talk about that a little bit? Because I know, like, all right. Obviously, I know there are some things that you wouldn't be able to disclose due to the sensitivity of the matter, especially on how the labor laws here in the Philippines. But how is I know obviously it's super challenging because you have to ask or give like a really good number of your employees the boot. But how did it start? How were you able to pick up on it, and how did you make that decision to say, okay, not only are we gonna take out this person who's spreading the negativity, but we're gonna take out the people who are infected as well? Can you walk us through that experience?
Well, it's not that I'm there seeing it. Many times, I mean, I'm not even in the office most of the times at this point in time, right? But who I have in there are the people that I I trust, and those are the people that are my managers, and the people that lead different departments, right? Like I got Ryan, who's the general manager. We got Jane, we got Shay, we got Joy. We
Mm,
got people that we really, really we put a lot of trust in, and they have a lot of trust in us, and that's where we get our intel, right? The heads, we get our intel like, oh, okay, this guy's not performing, and oh, by the way, these other people are causing trouble, rumors. Now it's infected these other people. These guys are going to resign, and I've had a lot of cases where it's about money, where people threaten to resign because they think we're going to offer them more money if they end up resigning or something like that. So
uh-huh.
instead of, it's like, for us, that stuff is important, but bring it up to HR. That's something that, that's something that the person should bring up with HR. And like you said, in the Philippines, there is a process that we have to
Sure.
follow
Yeah.
to be able to. It's not like in the States where it's like you're fired, you're fired, you're
Yeah,
fired.
yeah, yeah.
Bye. In the Philippines, it's like there's a 3-strike rule, and you have to have different written requests, but we stay on top of it, right? You might not be gone tomorrow, but you might be gone 3 months from then, or 2 months from that day. So, the only thing we want is for people to work. If they have issues, we handle those issues. But once it becomes a once it becomes an attitude problem, where it's no longer something that can be fixed because of a miscommunication,
Hmm.
uh, and it is an attitude problem, we can't change that, right?
Sure.
Because I can't change somebody's attitude. That's why I take, when it comes to hiring, I've had people that are have an amazing resume, amazing,
Yeah.
uh, amazing credentials, but I feel like they're arrogant, right? I'm not going to change that attitude of them being arrogant. It's already who they are,
Yeah.
right? You can't change somebody's attitude. Um, so that's it, man.
I agree. Totally agree. Uh, so I know you, and that's a difficult, that's a very interesting story. I appreciate you sharing that. I'm sure the viewers who are watching this will really learn a lot from that and how to handle that situation when they come across it in the future. We've been long-term friends. I know I mentioned that, you know, during the beginning of this whole relationship, it was kind of like I always say that you and Brian were my mentors, and we soon developed as long-term friends. And I've seen um, a good number of like your roller coaster ride in this entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
remember you and I having conversation where, in a lot of occasions you had your back against the wall, and you thought that that was the end of the company. I'm sure there might be quite a few of that moments, but can you share one of the most like the most awful experience
Yeah.
that you can't forget, that you thought, okay, this is it for me, we can never bounce back, but you did. So can you share that?
It's happened multiple times. We've been operating for close to 10 years, and in the 10 years that we've been operating the company, uh, we've almost went under 3 times. So it's been scary, but each time has been less stressful in a weird way, because you've done it once, you've bounced back once. And when we bounced back the second time, I knew I could do it again and again and
Mm.
again, even though times were rough. And I just had to prepare. And one of the reasons why we were in that dilemma was, the first time it happened was because inexperience, I would say. We were making really good money. We moved to the office in front of SLU in Baguio, and we started in the basement,
Mhm.
and we moved up to the penthouse. We worked our way up, right? And when we were in the basement area, that's when we were doing 50 sites a week. Boom, boom, boom. I was like, oh my God, let me go ahead and outsource this stuff to India. Oh shit, the India stuff sucks.
Mhm.
We gotta go ahead and get in-house staff, and I need more space. We went up into the penthouse, and I started hiring like crazy. We went from uh, I think 18 people to over 50. We had like 60 people at the time. We went nuts on the hiring.
Mm.
Okay. That was my mistake, because it should be a gradual, right? Because our money went like this. And of course, when your money goes sky high, you're like, okay, I got to keep the momentum going. I got to keep this up. I got to put more people in. But your your profit is in your expense most of the
Okay.
times, especially when you're starting your business. So if you're able to eliminate the expense, that's where your profit's at.
Mm.
And what we did is we tacked on the expense. We tacked on the expense. It ate into basically all the profit. We were making good money, but we were barely making it. We were making good money, enough to pay everybody who we hired, enough to pay me and Brian. But one situation that we have in the Philippines that most people don't have in Western countries is 13-month pay, right? We got the 13-month pay thing here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're running a company that like that, where you have 60 employees, that are, and they're being paid great money, because this is not a blue collar job. You're doing your programmers, designers,
Mhm.
uh, marketing personnel. These people are being paid really well. Uh, when it came time to pay the 13-month pay, it almost killed me. We were emptying out all of our accounts. I had absolutely no money left in my account when this was over. Brian didn't have a penny left in his account. We drained everything, um, to stay alive, and we paid our employees 13-month pay, and we had like we had like two presents under our Christmas tree for Christmas, and that's what I
Oh
gave
wow.
my wife. I gave her like a dress or something. Like, it was like, shit. After all this, that's all I can give you. I'm sorry, and she understood.
What?
But
So are you said like wiped out, like zero balance?
like $0.
Oh
Like
jeez.
when it first happened, we were like, we're gonna shut down next year. We were talking like we're gonna shut down by January. We paid all of our people. We should shut down, because if we have a bad month next month, we could be completely out of business, like minus money, which we don't have. So we're in a
How did
tough
you handle the
predicament.
situation, or how did, well, first not handle, but first of all,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's a negative emotional kind of roller coaster for you when you realize that, oh my god, my company that I built for X amount several years is
Yeah.
gonna shut down? How did it impact you emotionally?
It was rough. It was rough. Obviously I went into a little bit of a depression for about a week in December, leading up to the 13-month pay, because we always do it around the 17th to the 20th. And I remember a week before the 13-month pay, I was drained. I was drained because we had no more money left. It was like, I'll put it this way: my employees were making more money than I was at that point. They had
Mm,
more money by the time I paid that 13-month pay than I had um, in my account, and that's every employee. so you know, even the guy cleaning the floors was making more money than me. I'm like, I'm not freaking shitting you. And and it was rough. It was rough, and we talked about it. And I talked to my dad about it, and I talked to Brian about it, and we were like, "Shoot, guys, I think we ran our luck here. We messed up. We shouldn't have hired so many people. We should have We should have hired gradually and scaled gradually." But we never looked at that, and we made a big mistake, and we're going to go out of business. And what saved me was after I paid the money, and right after, the day after Christmas, I got a loan, and that's what I did. I went ahead and I got a loan from a family member, and it was a $20,000 loan, and I promised to pay it back within 6 months, and I gave them, I think, 10 to 15% interest on that loan, and I said,
it's
I'm
huge.
going to try this again, and I was able to finagle the deal and get the money right before January, that $20,000 backup, and we started again. The January hit, the clocks reset, and it was our time to do this again and try to make it right. And since then, it happened two more times. I didn't have to go as far as getting loans, and I wasn't ever wiped out as bad as the first time.
Hmm.
But I was low. I was low, definitely, and it's happened two more times because business and running a small business in the Philippines is very challenging, right? And a lot of the people in America and Europe and these places, they don't have 13-month pay,
Right.
right? Employees get paid a lot of money, right? They do get paid a lot of money, but the lifestyle requires you to have that much money, right? Because it's more expensive in those type of countries.
Sure.
And you can easily get rid of people. In the Philippines, it's very hard to get rid of
Yeah.
bad employees. And you're obligated by law to come up with an extra month's worth of salary. For those of you guys who don't know what 13-month pay is, you're coming up with an extra month worth of salary. Now times that by 60 people, right? That are earning good money.
Mm.
It really, really hurts you. And
So
so it's,
Pat, sorry, I don't mean
yeah,
to cut you off. So you're saying it happened two, three times
yeah,
after the first one.
yeah.
Um, is it for the same reason? Because like, okay, so first let pause
No,
for a minute. Um, how then? Let's go back. Now you got a loan for $20,000, which is a lot of money. What was your recourse? Because you still have X amount of employees. What?
yeah.
How did you pivot? Did you fire people or what?
We downsized. So we went from 60 to about 40, maybe 35, 40. So we downsized quite a bit beginning
Hmm.
that year because we could no longer uh, do this. We could no longer keep up with those expenses. Once we eliminated those people, well,
Hmm.
all that money's freed up now. So we had rolling capital to work with to be
Right.
able to grow intelligently. And so that's exactly, you know, what we did. And with the freed up capital, I was able to pay back the loan um, on time,
Hmm.
and we were able to grow the business. But you mentioned to me earlier, just a second ago, well, it happened 2 or 3 times. Was it the same thing? It wasn't the same thing.
Okay.
In business, there's ups and downs,
Right.
and we were on the up, but we mismanaged our cash flow, right?
Okay.
And then the other times we were on the lows, so the cash flow wasn't there, but we were managing people's time efficiently. We were managing who we onboarded. Uh, we were staffed right, basically, but business wasn't that great. And because business wasn't that great, cash was hard. And so it happened a second, and it happened even a third time in my 10 years, but it was never as bad as the first time.
First time.
Yeah.
When you say business wasn't great, what affected it? Weren't you bringing in, the right amount of sales during that time, or what was the
We
issue?
went through a transition, and that was our issue ultimately was sales. Like I told you before, sales fixes all.
Sure.
And we had a great, when you were there, and we had, if you remember back, we had a pretty good sales team. We were killing it, bringing in sites. When we transitioned and we opened up our second office in Angeles City, right? This is in Baguio. We were doing great. Brian moved to Angeles. He opened up a second office. Now, usually in business, when you open up a second office, right, there's going to be a lot of changes, obviously a lot of expenses also, because you're opening up an office, you got to hire employees,
Right.
you got to make things work. We took a little bit of a hit, quite a big hit during that period of time, because our focus was no longer growing really that sales department, even though it should have been. We should have stayed on the path of keep the sales rolling. Instead, we were like, we're going to open up a second office. We're growing. In our minds, that was I am growing. I got a second branch. We got 2 offices. Everybody that I tell that to is going to be like, wow, these guys are the shit. They got 2 offices. They're doing something right. And we were able to get the second office up and running, right? But we took our foot off the pedal, off that sales gas pedal, and it went down, and it was rough. What was lucky for us, though, the reason why we didn't totally die off, was the fact that we were smart enough to sell a subscription. And if you remember,
Hybrid solutions.
Custom hybrid solutions,
Yeah.
$200 down, $100 a month. We onboarded 300 customers, $30,000 a month reoccurring. That saved our asses, right? Because there's no better money than recurring money.
Right. There's that continuity package or element of a type of service. Yeah. So basically, you said that you're saying that opening an office, I mean, from a psychological standpoint, gave you it's a false positive. You thought you were growing, but what you really did is you just opened an office, but sales stopped coming in, and quickly pivoted and say, okay, again, sales cures all, and so that kind of saved the company.
Yeah. I mean, we had to pivot a little bit. The office opened up. It took us time to get the right people in there, and we were testing different things at the time. That was the time where we kind of stopped doing hybrid solutions, which was the monthly service. We actually stopped the program, right? Because the program was being run by primarily Brian, who is our sales and marketing head, and he was busy building another office. So we took our foot off the pedal, and we kind of stopped selling hybrid solutions, and that was it. That was. But to this day, I'm still billing clients even though I don't accept new clients on the program. I'm still billing clients. Can you believe that? For years later. So
because it's still subscribed to the service, right?
They're still
To
subscribed to the service, and we still service them.
right,
We
right.
still service them. So
Because I remember, we rivaled hybrid solutions was meant to rival web.com, who back then was a company that it was a behemoth when it comes to producing websites, but the biggest thing, or the what I think their Achilles heel was, what they did was they created ugly cookie cutter templates, and that's how we positioned ourselves in the market, and became a really worthy like competitor, because what we did was we created custom tailored beautiful websites, and the fact that we offer unlimited revisions uh, was really appealing to the clientele.
Yeah, there was definitely a hook. I mean, it was a great offer. It was a wonderful offer, and a lot of people signed up for it, and a lot of people are happy with it. To this day, people are still happy with the service. Um, I I believe that looking back at my 10 years though of running this business, that where I am today, from where I started, I obviously can see. Obviously, there's a big difference, right? I was before, when I first started this, I was living out of a one-bedroom apartment with my wife, and cold calling myself out of my
Yeah,
house. And now, the company pays for my car. It pays for this wonderful house I live in. I got a swimming pool. My kid goes to a great
mm,
school. I got, two offices. Money's good. Even during this coronavirus thing, I'm not that affected, but money's still coming in really, really good. And, but I could have shortened my time. I could have shortened this to 5 years. It shouldn't have taken me 10 years to get where I am. It should have taken me
how
5 years. Uh, Standard operating procedures, SOPs.
SOPs, systems,
So
procedures. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Why is that?
So
Why is that important to our? I mean, for those who want to know.
well, it's basically it. I'm gonna I'm gonna share my screen with you if you don't mind, really quick.
Sure, sure. Share
I
away.
think we can do that. So this is what our SOPs look like right now, and you can see we have recipes, and then over here we have the individual SOPs. Now this is for marketing, only
Wow.
marketing. We got SOPs for sales. We got SOPs for customer service support, but this is for marketing. So if I wanted to hire somebody new,
Mm-hmm.
right? And marketing is something where it's you have to be a very skillful person, because you're taking people's money and you're advertising with that money on the internet. They expect results, but then you have an issue, right? When it comes to hiring, because uh, there's a situation where the person that has the most money gets that employee, and unfortunately, even though we're doing so well, I don't have the resources like some of these multi-million-dollar call centers that are in Clark, that
Sure.
are paying employees 130,000 pesos a month or 150,000 pesos a month. I've had people come to my interviews asking for that type of money,
What
right?
for what position though?
Marketer, run Google ads, run Facebook ads
100,000
a
pesos
month.
a month?
Yeah,
That might be just like trying to, pull a bluff on you or something. It's kind of hard to,
possibly.
yeah.
Possibly, but they're going to every single company like that, and whoever gives it to them, that's where they're at, and that's the situation you have sometimes with employees. So, like I said before, right away, it becomes extremely hard for, even if the guy has a good attitude. We couldn't compete. We can't compete with that. We have to compete with people that have a little bit less experience, but train them so they become
Sure.
superstars in a very short period of time. So how do we train people? Well, we train people with standard operating procedures. So if I was hiring somebody for SEO, If you don't know anything about SEO, you're a high school student, you're a fresh grad. If you read any of our SOPs and you go through this, you'll become an SEO master. Like, we got shit in here for analytics, content marketing, and step by step, I'm going to show you this one. It tells you exactly what to do, right? Execution time, 15 to 30 minutes. Goal, how to add Google Analytics to a site using Google Tag Manager. Ideal outcome, prerequisites or requirements, why this is important, where this is done, who does this, and step by step how to do it.
Nice.
Go to File, create and set up a Google Analytics account, screenshots, pictures. It tells you how to do your job, right? That way, I can't come to you and say, you're not doing your job, right? Because you're literally following a step-by-step guide that we've put together so we can keep consistency for our clients and the workload that they expect, but also we can hire people that aren't really knowledgeable at all and make them knowledgeable in a very short period of time. If you have the capacity to read and follow instructions, then you can do this. That's all you need. A good attitude, and you know how to read. If you know how to read and you got a good attitude, you'll be able to become an SEO guru or run social media campaigns or run Facebook ads. It's all written out. So this, what I'm showing you over here, we didn't have that in the beginning. We didn't have that even when you were there. We didn't have that until 2-3 years ago, is when we started doing SOPs and putting together these standard operating procedures. And that would have cut my time in half. So anybody out there that's running their business for the first time, before you even start the business, before you even get started, write your SOPs. Why? Because you're one person. You can't be doing this job forever, right? I can't be the guy that's on the phone and doing the work and doing, customer service. I'm only one person. So as a business owner, I would rather dedicate my time in writing standard operating procedures so I can get somebody else to do that work, right? Because that's how you can grow a company, because it's a process that's repeatable.
Right.
I can hire 4 people that are 18 years old. They don't know shit, and they can come in and they can set up Google Analytics site tags on a website in
It's
15 minutes.
essentially a copy and paste system, like a foolproof copy and paste system that allows you to bring in great people, people with great attitude but less experience, and turn them into all-star team players. So there's this thing that Jay Abraham said about hiring people. 2 things. You have 2 options. First option is to hire the best and cry once, meaning, you hire the best, and the reason why I say cry once is because you cry because this person, you probably need to pay this space an exorbitant amount of money, right? Because
Yeah.
they're great, they know their value. Now, if you want to run lean in your business for whatever reason, then you hire the best potential. So the best potential is the person that has great attitude, and now comes in the system that you have in place and procedures that's going to turn a novice into a master or an expert. So I think a lot of mhm.
You have to have the right attitude. And what this is the skill. I'm teaching you how to become skillful. Your SOPs teach people how to acquire that skill. As long as you got a good attitude, you can make it work. So, and it applies for every business. This is web, but if you wanted to, for instance, your real estate business, right? And right now you might be setting appointments, and there might be a certain way that you set appointments, but you don't
Yeah,
want to do that for the rest of your life, because if you're a business owner, you need to think a little bit bigger than that. How do I get myself out of this job
and
so I can
duplicate
think of
yourself.
better things? And it all starts with SOPs.
Yeah, that's the only way you can really duplicate yourself and not micromanage. I wanted to ask you this question. So if you're not doing what you're doing right now, meaning if you're not in the business of developing websites, digital marketing, um, in this space that you're in, what
Mhm.
what industry would you be in, or at least can
What
you imagine yourself,
can if I'm not selling websites or selling marketing,
or digital
I would
marketing? Yeah.
I would be I would be selling something online. Okay, I'm not sure what, but I would take the skills that I have acquired
Mm-hmm.
over these years, and I would apply that to sell anything. It could be affiliate marketing. I'd probably get into some affiliate marketing, selling other people's
Mm-hmm.
proven products and services for a commission, and make a living doing that, or maybe doing e-commerce. But one of the greatest assets that I've been able to acquire personally over this 10-year journey has been the ability to market anything. Market anything. And how do you do that? Well, you need a few skills. Number one, I think one of the skills that any person, and it doesn't matter if you're doing anything online or maybe you're talking face to face with clients,
Mm-hmm.
but one of the most important skills is copywriting,
Okay.
creating good copy, right? Being able to sell yourself through words. So if you know copywriting, that's in my opinion an essential skill. The second essential skill is design hacking. And design hacking is nothing more than being able to identify which websites, for instance, if I'm doing, if I'm selling insurance,
Mm-hmm.
I being able to identify the top insurance companies and replicating what their design looks like, right? You don't have to be a talented designer or get a talented designer to come up with stuff out of nowhere. What I like to call this is design hacking, having the ability to look at your top competitors,
Mm-hmm.
take what makes them successful and replicate that in a design.
I
So
I
you
call
have
it
copywriting
I call it reverse
and design hacking.
engineering.
Reverse engineering. Okay, there you go.
Right.
Reverse engineering. That's another way. That's exactly it. Uh, so copywriting, design hacking, or reverse engineering, and then the third thing, being able to run advertising, understanding how to run Facebook ads, understanding how to run Google ads, understanding how to run Pinterest ads, getting your feet wet with sponsoring ads, because literally when you sponsor ads, that's the equivalent of putting up billboards
Mm-hmm.
everywhere you sponsor, right?
Right.
In the old days, people would hand out pamphlets on the streets and get a billboard. Remember all these real estate agents from like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
freaking 90s? I got a billboard, buddy. I'm getting all the business. When you had a billboard, you were the big dog in town. You're like, oh yeah. Well, right now, fast forward 2020, we have that. It's Facebook ads, Google ads, only that you can do it 1,000 times faster and your reach is unlimited. You can target the whole world. It's crazy. So
And I want to add to that. It's not just I laugh. I laugh when I see or say
yeah,
when I try to pitch to business owners who are in the Philippines, and they come back at me and say, "Hey, you know what? I'm already doing advertising." And to say, "Well, what kind of advertising do you do?" "Well, I got a billboard. Looks really nice." And I'm also handing out like the pamphlets.
yeah,
Well, the thing with that, and there's nothing wrong doing that, but I just truly feel like 1,000% that there's a better way to allocate your money. I think
yeah,
billboards look. I think what it is, it's another false positive because it's sort of a shotgun blast. And I say shotgun is because it's the spread is wide, but it's not targeted. I mean, a non-targeted audience would be able to see the billboard, magtataho, a taxi driver, someone who sells,
Yeah.
whatever, as opposed to having a sniper rifle when you're doing Facebook ads, that allows you to pretty much like handpick. Oh, okay, this person is a perfect client fit. There's a product market fit. I'm gonna take this guy, and I think there's a huge difference. You're not wasting money. You're running lean, plus you're
Yeah.
bringing in the right people.
You know what's way more effective than a billboard?
What is?
Taking a picture of that billboard and sponsoring it on Facebook.
It's just took it to the
Yeah,
next level,
yeah, yeah. Take it to the another level, man. Because you taking the picture of your billboard that you've
huh?
paid so
Yeah.
much for, writing a nice ad copy,
Yep.
putting a picture of your billboard and sponsoring it. You'll be rich overnight. It's that's I mean that's what it is. So those would be my three essential um, skill sets to be able to hack life. Because if my business disappeared tomorrow
Yeah.
and I didn't have any employees and I didn't have this reoccurring money coming in, I didn't have I just don't want to do this anymore or whatever I decide to do, and it disappears tomorrow and I need to make money. Those are the three skills that would get me through anything: is copywriting, reverse engineering or design hacking, and running ads. And running ads. You'll never go hungry. We're in a different time now. We're in 2020, and a lot of people, a lot of young kids are figuring this out.
Right.
People 16, 17 years old, they're on YouTube. They got 1 million followers on YouTube.
Sure.
God, they're smart. Very, very
I
different
complete
generation.
I completely agree with you. And just to like look at what you said in a different angle, because it might be not really inundating, but it might be difficult to digest to some viewers. I want to put it in layman's or in terms that they might be able to better digest. Essentially, what you're saying is to learn sales. Copywriting is really what it is. It's a branch of sales. It's really selling in words.
Yes.
Um, Now, for people who might want to sell on the phone, that's also essential. Plus, when you're starting a business anyway, there might be times that you need to get on the phone and have to pitch the actual service after they saw your written copy online and say, hey, I want to talk a little bit more about this. Can we get on the phone? And so you still need to learn how to sell verbally. You
Mm-hmm.
said learn Facebook ads. What essentially that is, if I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong, Pat, is to learn how to be online. This goes back to what you're saying, to be out there, right? And one of the means or
Be
ways,
out there.
best ways in today's information is to be online, is to learn how to run, Facebook ads. If not Facebook ads, maybe uh, SEO, pay per click, uh,
Yeah. Yeah, don't
and
be afraid to test out. Don't be afraid to try something new. Any type of advertising that allows you to have a reach
mm,
and allows you to reach your audience is good advertising. You know, it's as simple as that. So all these tools we have, and I'm very thankful that we have all these tools
yeah,
nowadays. We got Pinterest, we can sponsor LinkedIn ads, we can do Google ads. We got tons of ways to reach out to our audience. Um, but you just got to use it. And for those guys that haven't gone to the point yet where they have to do ads, well, do a lot of free stuff. Get a LinkedIn up, fix your LinkedIn profile so it looks professional.
sure,
Fix your Facebook and do organic posts in groups. There's a lot of free ways to get people to see you, but you need to get yourself out there. You need to get yourself out there. And one of the most powerful ways to do it now, and this is why my focus has kind of switched to this, is YouTube. Because with YouTube, obviously it's free. You
yeah,
do your own videos and you put your content out there, and you obviously you're not going to become rich overnight and have like a
sure,
million views at once unless you have like something viral. But uh, 2-3 years you wait 2 or 3 years from the time you posted that video, and you could have tens of thousands of subscribers. And that's why there's no better time to start doing it than now. And it just gives you, it makes you an authority. It really does. You got a YouTube channel,
Yeah,
people see your face. You had the courage to get actually on camera and to talk about certain things, knowing that you're probably going to have a lot of haters, and you're going to have a lot of people too
sure.
that love you, right? But you had enough courage to put yourself out there. So people instantly say, "Oh God, this guy's on YouTube. Holy crap!" He's got a good YouTube channel. He's entertaining. He has a lot of good content, and yeah, I don't mind giving him a subscribe. So
What I think though is, you mentioned, getting haters. I think the mindset approach to that is you gotta love your haters. I mean, I don't want to cliche this, but it's really true. You'll get polarizing views anywhere and everywhere. Even Jesus had his haters. That's exactly why he got crucified. But what I mean by that exactly is that, um, who was it that said, um, it's there's no such thing as bad publicity, and that's another way of looking at it. That's probably a little bit more extreme, but
yeah,
even Trump, he got polarizing, supporters. Some people hate his guts. Some people would really die with this guy or for this guy. Same with Duterte. And from an engagement standpoint, if on YouTube, it's gonna help out as well, because some people will like, I hate this guy, I hate his guts, what he's saying is complete bullshit. And then the people who love you would engage,
yeah.
and
Even the people that hate you they'll engage too.
they'll engage too, and that's gonna
Not
help
for
out with
your
the engagement, right?
who cares? They're engage, engage, engage,
Right,
engage, and engagement drives it. It drives your video to the top of the page. That's how it works. That's how Facebook works. That's how all these social sites
right,
work. The more engagement you have, the more popular you are, whether it's good or bad.
right. Another thing that I wanted to add, from what you've already mentioned, is that I think the precedent, of you know um, of you learning, the essential skills, like you being able to design, hack, sell, and be online, is to do introspection or be self-aware, and be able to really identify like what are your interests are, and then be able to attach that to whatever skill you want to learn, which will in turn, um, develop your interest in a specific audience or market niche, and that's going to help you formulate a product or a service. And then from there, then what platform your audience will be present on or hang out on. You're about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like that movie, The Wolf of Wall Street, where the guy was like, "Sell me this pen," right? It's like essentially like that. People are there's a lot of stupid people out there that'll buy the stupidest shit ever, dude. Um, but as long as you make it sound like the most amazing product or service out there, you could sell anything. And that's why I said, copywriting, good phone sales
Right.
skills, uh, you know, it, it, you'll get around in times of an apocalypse. You'll be able to survive, at least if you have those skills. If you have any good phone skills, great copywriting skills, um, it doesn't matter. But if you're starting a business, you still need that too. You need great copywriting. You need to be able to sell yourself. You got to be able to sell your service. Um, so yeah,
You never, you didn't lay off a unlike other traditional companies out there. You were able to successfully pivot and adapt with the this pandemic. uh,
yeah,
During our conversation with Brian, he mentioned that you didn't lay off a single employee, but what you did was you sort of migrated the operations from office to, um, home based. Um,
yeah,
and that's definitely super admirable. That only goes to show that you guys are great leaders to take care of your people, and another thing that we talked about is how Grant Cardone like laid off a massive amount of, his guys. But let's talk about that a little bit. Are you guys like, are you continuously hiring, or what's the situation there?
Yeah, I get applicants every day. We always, even if we're not looking for people, I'm always let me rephrase that. I'm always looking for people, even if I'm not in the moment in time, I'm not ready to hire. I'm still looking for people because I'm looking for that next great talent with a great attitude to be able to bring them into the organization. So even now, I still have my ads all over the internet for web developers, appointment setters, marketers, and like tonight, I got a new girl that's going to be starting, a new lady, very talented designer that's going to be helping us out with a little bit of design work. As far as the coronavirus thing, what we did is many people let their employees go, right? And I understand that part too. I understand that
Sure.
sometimes you have to in this type of scenario. What we did though is we moved everybody online. 2 weeks ago, we said, guys, this was a day before the Luzon quarantine announcement.
Yeah.
We had a meeting. We said, everybody, get it. Ryan and all the managers, find out who has internet from home. Everybody has internet from home, right? Except 3 people, which for those 3 people, we went ahead and bought prepaid internet for them. But we told everybody, get online, and that's how we're going to do it. For us, when it first started, when we first heard about the lockdown, and it was when we got locked down, most of the world was being put on lockdown. Italy and Spain, of course, which are the hardest hit areas, those guys are on lockdown. The U.S. just started locking down a couple of weeks ago. So the whole world started doing it at about the same time, right? When it first started, I kind of had a false positive because I was in Boracay, when, the beach, amazing beach, man. I was there for about a week, maybe I think 6 nights, 7 days, with my mother-in-law and the whole family, while this whole coronavirus news was happening.
Right.
And that's where I planned this with the employees to get online. Well, during that time, the false positive was I was getting a lot of business coming through. Even though we were in the middle of everybody was announcing lockdowns and stuff, I was getting more business. We had like a 20% increase in business during that week when I was in Boracay, which was nuts because I was getting websites for people that wanted to go online, online. One guy wanted to do online streaming for his gym. Another person wanted to do online streaming for a yoga class. Another person wanted to do an online streaming thing for breathing sessions. So people were getting prepared for it as well. And I think that's why I saw kind of a surge of business. Well, I got back from Boracay, everybody went online. And then last week I had quite a few accounts that I'm running marketing for, pause their accounts, not cancel them, but pause them, meaning we're not charging for those accounts until they're back on. So we did take a hit. And just playing it by ear. That's why I said it was kind of a false positive. Because
Right.
I'm like, oh, we're going to do better during the coronavirus. Not the case. We're doing about 30% less than what we were doing when we didn't have this coronavirus situation. So we did take a hit, but letting go of employees is my very last resort. And I'm not there yet. And I don't think we're going to get to that point, just because, business is still fairly good. There's money still coming in. Everybody's been amazing at my company. Everybody's working online. And it's like having them in the office. There's no difference. They're online, they're on chat. I had one incident with one employee that accidentally fell asleep, but that was it. Everybody else has been online.
How do you keep them
Um,
accountable though? I bet that's one of the things that if there's an employer, a lot of business owners are probably gonna view this, but how do you keep them accountable? You don't see them physically, who knows? They might be, sleeping. I know it happens a lot in different online businesses.
I keep them accountable based on the end result only. So I'm not tracking their hours. I'm not, there are protocols where like Shay and Ryan have put in place where they have to do check-ins. They do like an hourly,
Okay.
I'm here. So there is that the managers put in place. But when I did the meeting with the managers and we talked about this, one of the managers threw around the idea of why don't we implement this, this time tracking where it tracks your keystrokes on your computer like Upwork. And I'm like, no, 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 we're not going to do this. Pisses people off. I don't care if they're if they accidentally fell asleep, as long as they make up for the work. I don't care if their schedule is a little bit different now that they're working from home. It's a little bit difficult. Some guys are going to be working from the day. Some guys are going to be working at night. All I care about is that whatever tasks are assigned, that they're done in the time that the allotted time frame. So it's all results based, right? That's how you keep track of your employees during this time is don't keep track of like their hours, as if they were in the office. Like
Yeah.
you got to keep track of the end result. It helps you keep more sane and your employees more sane. And yeah.
And at the end of the day, I mean, that's very true. At the end of the day, the results will speak for itself. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
I
we haven't had any issues with that. People have been hitting their milestones. They've been hitting their what they're supposed to be doing. So I'm super happy. I'm super happy for this situation. I'm actually even thinking like, shit, when this is over, so do I even keep the office? Should I even keep my office? This situation's so nice right now.
are you seriously considering that?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, are you seriously considering that?
Yeah.
Oh wow, going. One of the things though that I don't know. So, the reason I'm asking is I had a lot of, well, not a lot, but quite a few real estate agents because of my experience in inside sales. It was, about a decade of inside sales. Reached out to me and wanted to partner up with me, build an ISA company, um, and I've always declined the offer for one single reason. It's hard for me to imagine operating a sales division, from an online, perspective, like online. I
Mm-hmm.
believe that if the traditional setting where you need to have all your salespeople there because everybody will be feeding off from their own energy, and of course that's just me basing it from my experience because there were a lot of times where your energy is low, you're alone, you're calling at home. I'm sure some people would have different results, but I think generally it's really hard to keep yourself accountable and be energetic if you're alone. And if you're working during times where you should be sleeping, it's going to be hard to sustain that.
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned that you might seriously consider like just keeping the whole business online. What would be the strategy for your sales people? Do you go online as well, or maybe get a smaller office for sales?
Well, I mean, you did bring up a good point. I mean, with sales, salespeople, they do much better in an environment where there's another person calling next to them and they're doing their
Mm,
own thing. And in my office here in Angeles, we have we renovated the office. We have a really good section in there where we have all of our callers, and that's worked out tremendously. But they're still generating appointments from home and we're still getting similar results. So we just we'll have to play it by ear really.
right.
And they're not really the end. See, it's not really and it just depends what you have. But in our situation before, when you and I were working together with the whole team, we were selling website accounts to clients, right?
Right.
With nothing. I mean, it was like there was a website, but the website was kind of shitty, and uh, you were selling them with your voice. That was it. It was
Yeah.
like that's it. That was difficult, right? It was challenging to say the least, because sales in the old days, that's how it was done. It was like with your voice, and it's still done that way in most
Right.
cases. But now our sales is a little bit different because we have supplemental content that we have really good funnels
Right.
right now. We have a process. If somebody wants to, what we have in our office is we have appointment setters. We don't really have salespeople right now. We have appointment setters. Their job is to generate those appointments. Those appointments end up on my calendar and Brian's calendar, and we're the ones selling them. We're the ones talking to these customers and
Closing the deal.
getting them onboarded onto our platform. But unlike before, we were getting credit cards over the phone. That's how we
Right.
were doing it.
Right.
Shit, we're not doing that over here. What we do is we give them access to an online portal, and we've basically laid out all the different packages and services we have, and they order online. They don't need us to order. All we're doing is we're their conscience. We're just there making sure that the phone call is there, telling them why it's important to do marketing, showing them examples, showing them case studies, showing them our process through a demo call. That's what it is. Schedule a demo call with Pat and Brian.
Right.
We run you through the whole program. We show you the online system, but now you take the action. I'm not asking you for a credit card over the phone. You take the action. Put your credit card in the system. Go through the process. You get the support tickets. So it's evolved a little bit. My sales process has certainly evolved. It's no longer reliant 100% on your voice. There is a process that we have now to be able to sell our accounts more efficiently. Or
I
onboard
mean,
account. Yeah.
and I think that's pretty efficient and effective as well. Because I remember this book. It's it was co-written by I think it was the sales VP of sales of Workforce, where it kind of, well, it's not exactly the same, but it's pretty similar, because what you did was you basically compartmentalized or kind of segmented the sales process from opening, or from lead capture to setting the appointment to presentation to closing. That's
Yep.
and what we did before was we did the whole shebang, right?
Presentation, show you're the guy that generated the lead, presentation,
Exactly.
getting the credit card, and now we've chopped it up.
Right, right. And do you feel like I know even some salespeople would have like different views on that, because especially the ones who have this certain type of ego, and would say, no, a true salesperson should make the close. You don't just and I can almost imagine fucking Grant Cardone saying the thing. But how do you feel, or do you feel like it is something that each and every company can duplicate?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially here in the Philippines. And one of the things that I've heard foreigners say time and time and again, oh, I've tried hiring somebody in the Philippines for a sales job, but it didn't work out. They weren't that great, right? This is a generalization, okay?
Hmm.
I hired in the early days, I hired salespeople in the U.S. and they sucked. So it doesn't matter where you're from.
Yeah.
Sales. But if you're, I like to work on volume, right? If you're in business and you need volume leads, then I split it up. And what works for me is having a floor of appointment setters, and all they do is generate appointments, because I can guarantee that they'll succeed at generating appointments,
Sure.
right? Where many a times, if you do the whole process, you might have guys that are great at doing the appointments, but they suck at the close. Or
Yep.
you got guys that hate cold calling. I don't want a cold call, like me. and but we're great at the close. We're wonderful at closing. And you get guys that can do the whole thing but don't want to do the whole thing. They're like, if I could just get the appointments to me, I could be closing all day, right? So you have that scenario. That's why I think it's more effective to be able to, and this is for, I would think for almost any business, no matter where you're at, is have a team of appointment
Hmm.
setters generating your appointments, and have the people that know about your business, the ins and outs, the benefits, the value proposition. They
Hmm.
understand it like eating. It's just like they get this thing. They breathe this all day long. So have them do the close. So have guys that are really good at appointments, do appointments all day. Have guys that are really good at closing, close all day, and yeah, and that's the way to do it.
I agree 1,000%. That's exactly one of the things that Jay Abraham mentioned. Uh, exactly what you said. There are some people who just really hate cold calling or setting appointments, but they love kind of articulating the benefits of the product. But then when it comes to like closing, it's kind of that basketball player who can make the clutch shot.
Yeah,
Clutch shot is basically when you're running out of time and it's the winning shot, and you take the shot, but you kind of like freeze up.
yeah,
And it's kind of the principle of when, like, it was first introduced by Ford and McDonald's. You basically, like, it's like a
yeah.
factory, right?
Supply chain. Yeah, yeah.
The supply chain. All right, dude. Well, we've covered the last thing that we're supposed to talk about, which is really what would be the top three skills that you would suggest people to learn in today's age that's gonna help them through. I mean, not that's gonna help them through this pandemic, but more importantly, that's gonna sustain them long term. Which is, you mentioned, copywriting slash sales. Learn digital marketing in whatever shape or form they that might
Design
design
hacking, and
hacking,
reverse engineering,
right?
and then marketing, being able
Marketing,
to sponsor ads.
right? Um, so, dude, in closing, um, I think what we want to leave at is, if you were to hire, as an employer, if you were to hire the ideal employee,
Mhm.
based on what you're looking for. Let's just talk about it. Like, you mentioned that you're hiring right now. What's the most important, um, like, uh, position that you need to get filled, that you need to be filled in right now, and what's the ideal employee for that?
Well, that's a really good question. It's a tough question because there's different points in a business's life where you might need a different position. Like right now, for me, what I'm looking for is a really good customer success agent. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody that's there to speak with our existing clients,
Mm-hmm.
right? Keep them happy and be able to upsell different products and services. And we found somebody that will be starting in the next few days to help us with that job. So that is really on top of our list in terms of priority. And appointment setters. I'm always looking for great appointment setters, because if you have sales coming in, you will never go hungry.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's it. If you have sales come in, you'll never go hungry. So I'm always looking for good appointment setters. But like I said, I'm if you go to linkage.ph, my local site, and then you go to our careers page, we have over 20 different job posts that we're definitely able to hire for right away for the right person. But those are the two jobs that I do definitely want to expand really quickly, is a customer success agent and appointment setters.
Fantastic. Um, Now, to the folks who are watching this that want to view more of your content, because and obviously you've mentioned, you know, I'll include the link of linkage.ph to those who want to check out, the opportunities for the company that they might want to apply for. It's great that you're actively hiring despite of the
Mhm.
situation. But to those like business startups, or to anyone or everyone who want to follow you, like where can they find you online?
Uh, you can hit us up on Facebook under just look up Murphy Consulting and you'll find us on Facebook, and on YouTube you can look up 90 Day Agency. You can also go to murphyconsulting.us, which is our main business site, and then you'll
Hmm.
see a link that says channel. And if you're just getting started, or even if you started a few years ago and you're getting into the agency business, the business of selling digital products, then check out our channel. Like it's free. We're constantly posting videos up there teaching people how to how to build their own agency, how to get things sold online, and you can find us right there. So murphyconsulting.us, hit the channel button, YouTube 90 Day Agency, or Facebook Murphy Consulting.
Awesome, thanks Pat. There are still a lot of things that I want to talk about, but due to time constraints, plus
Yeah, we've
more
been on here a
importantly,
while.
yeah, I wanna be able to like give it another go in an in-person setting
Yeah.
with probably a Cuban cigar and your choice of whiskey or liquor brand, like really really casual type. So Pat, thanks for sharing your insights, your
My
thoughts
pleasure.
and your experiences. Appreciate you being here, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah. It was great being here.